In this video, I'm just going to talk to you about what an index is, how it's calculated, and why we use them. Indices is the plural. With an index, this kind of gets into the how, but it's a way of taking very complicated data and putting it into a more clear form. They always are based, or when you make an index, its base is always at 100, but that doesn't necessarily mean it begins with 100. Oftentimes bases are chronological, and it's rare that you would make the base year the first year in that chronology, but you might. Okay, so these are my classes, and I'm just showing the total and then the boys and girls in each. I can't make an index that does all three of these together, so really I'm going to calculate an index here, an index for this, and an index for that. And again, this is a very simple example, and to be quite honest, making an index here isn't super useful because just looking at the numbers themselves, I can get a pretty good understanding of what my classes look like. But it's an easy example, so here we go. So I'm going to choose a base year, or I'm sorry, a base class in this case, and I'm going to choose class C. The significance, in this case, there isn't any. But when making a real index, maybe I would choose, maybe I would choose a year that a recession began, or maybe I would choose, if I, in this context, the year where our highest IB results were, something like that. So you could choose a base year based on something significant, but you don't necessarily have to. Sometimes you just choose something convenient, okay? So the math of it is very simple. I choose the base year, so right now I'm creating an index for my total students. So I take the base year, 18, and that's going to be the denominator for all of my calculations. So to get the index for total students for class C, I take 18 divided by 18, that's 1, and I multiply it by 100, which is 100. To get the index then for A, I take 12 divided by the base year, that comes out to 0.67, and then I multiply it by 100, and that comes out to 66.67. Quick note, in IB, you're always expected to go to 2 decimals and round to the second decimal. So of course, this is actually going to be 6 repeating, which produces, when you round it correctly according to IB, produces these 2 results. And then I do the same thing for boys and girls. The only reason I did it that way is to show you, for example here, just because, so I take, again for girls, my base is 7. So I take 7 divided by 7 times 100 and get 100, but I do the same thing for B block and get 100. That doesn't make this the base year, the base class, it just means that it happens to be equal to the base class, okay? So essentially that's how you calculate it. I'm not going to go into any more depth on that. Why do we do this? First of all, it's very easy to calculate percent changes. So whenever you calculate a percent change, it's the new number minus the original number divided by the original number. So if this is the original number, I can do 111.11 minus 100 is equal to 11.11 over 100, the original number. And of course, a percentage is any number over 100, so I can stop right there. So essentially, I can just take out the 1, right? And that's the percent change. I can take out the 1 here, and that's the percent change, and I can take out the 1 there, and that's the percent change. It's not as easy going backwards, but it just means I have to do the subtraction real quickly, and that's that. So again, 100 to 71.43, that's 28.57%. Check my math, I'm not sure. That's part of the reason. Also, it's a way of simplifying complicated data. So again, you probably wouldn't do it with students because it's pretty obvious what my classes look like by just looking at the numbers. But the one that we're going to use a lot, the Consumer Price Index, is literally hundreds of products. So tracking them all together, you're not going to get a good picture of what's happening just on their own. So you want to combine them and then try to gain an understanding. I did do this as an example. So maybe instead of using my own classes, if I really wanted to get a significant base, I would actually take some number from here. So overall in AISJ, we have around 265 classes. They go anywhere from 5 students to a maximum of 26 students, and the average is around 15. So it probably would make better sense for me if I were trying to get a picture of, do I teach more students or fewer students than average? I would make this the base, and then obviously this number would be bigger, this would be bigger, and that would be a little bit smaller. So that's something I might do. And then we have about, overall in the school, we have slightly more girls than boys. So again, I might make that number, whatever it is, the base, I guess 50.45 times 15. I might make that the base to get kind of a picture of my, boys and girls in my classes versus in other classes.